let me tell you why I no longer love Overwatch. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of Overwatch at this point. It's the FPS that thinks it's a MOBA, or the MOBA that tries to be an FPS, and I'll admit with some success. Or generally speaking, a team-based shooter where each character, nay, hero, gets their own unique abilities on cooldown. Some of these abilities are more unique than others, but that's not my gripe. I got hundreds of hours into this game. I was even a diamond player on the competitive ranks for a hot minute there, but that was more than a year ago, which translates to about 34 patches and rebalances into the game. That said, let's talk about what's good and how it goes off the rails. For starters, the game's 21 original heroes were a breath of fresh air. Taking the ball that Valve had thrown long with their wildly anticipated and well-received Team Fortress 2 nearly a decade prior, Overwatch was the spiritual successor that we all craved. Where TFC and its subsequent sequel showed us the fun and power of team-based FPS genre with class-based combat can be, Overwatch did not disappoint. While there were likely other progenitors and peers, nobody did it better than the original team who modded Quake and the Team Fortress and the Team Fortress Classic and the Team Fortress 2. The whole idea at its core concept was very simple. Rock, paper, scissors. With 8 classes, every character has more room to maneuver in their slot. A soldier can be a stalwart defender, or he can be a vanguard attacker, or he can play a bodyguard. Each merc, as they're called, has their own health and speed, as well as unique kit. Valve even upped the ante with new swaps for these kits, meaning we could pick how to play our soldier with enough balance introduced that it would take a very high-skilled player to play him outside of his roles. Can it be done? Sure. Is it easy? No. You're probably going to get gibbed if you don't know what you're doing. No. So as I mentioned, Overwatch introduced 21 original heroes into their game. 21 is a lot. What other FPS do you know with 21 classes? Paladins, shut up. No one's talking to you. I credit the Blizzard team tremendously for their original 21 heroes. While I don't get the versatility from each one that I would enjoy with a high level of skill that I would in TF2, I love that each one played uniquely enough. With very minor exceptions, they all had the same run speed and the same jump height, but their unique abilities give them ways to traverse obstacles and enemies in unique ways, showing risk and reward. Risk and reward. Let's not forget that. We'll get back to that later. Overwatch released with 21 heroes of varying skills and abilities that had been tested and calibrated for a period of at least 6 months prior to seeing the light of day. That starts to become clear as you examine the heroes that were introduced after release. It's not to say that those heroes are bad or unbalanced. Quite the opposite in many cases, but the challenge is calibrating them in a real-world setting. In other words, the game had been built out without the extensive playtesting and innate understanding of how the heroes would interact with each other. Their abilities and niches played well into the rock, paper, scissors model. Certain heroes had more utility, but that's a logical trade-off limiting your classes to their kit. It's a reasonable trade-off, and it makes sense that a Torbjorn who's ready to work, or a car-washing sim, may not see as much use. The problem with introducing a new hero every 4 months is that it's almost impossible to give the same level of care to the interaction between heroes. So what am I really saying here? I'm saying that when you add Hero 22, Ana, you need to worry about how Ana interacts with 21 other heroes, both generally and specifically. You need to worry about how she interacts with combinations of heroes as well. When you introduce Sombra, you now have 22 subsets of variables. You see where I'm going with this? You have more variables every time with less time leading up to balancing interaction. You're breaking your game, Blizzard! Now, some of those heroes are ones that I love. Orisa, the derp horse herself, is my second best hero and one of my favorite to play. Baby Ryan Brigida is a joy to play, and I still maintain that Sigma is an alternate universe of my boy, the big man Ryan, where he isn't quite as German and his brain wasn't concussed into currywurst as a youth. But my joy in the heroes doesn't offset the balancing issues. So you may be asking, Little Miss Sassy Smash, what does offset balancing issues? Well, it's not patching the freaking game into oblivion, that's for sure! My goodness, this is the most frustrating part of the game. It's that Blizzard knew they'd done goofed, so they start patching things up like it's a hobo's blanket. Little nerfy nerf here, little buff here, and why not? Let's just make Reaper eat tanks this month. Mercy's played too often? Let's nerf her into the Bronze Age for a while. Torb isn't used enough? Let's just rebuild him. Ryan's ultimate doesn't work? Well, we'll fix that one, sort of, eventually. In the meantime, here's some Sombra buff that nobody asked for. Why? Reasons! The Blizz team solution is to patch the game. Now, certain patches are necessary to fix balance and exploitable features in a game. Let's not gloss over the fact that Blizzard has been vigilant on providing a high-quality experience in the functionality of its game, and they deserve credit for that. That said, have you heard of the term over-engineering? According to Dr. Google from Wikipedia University, over-engineering is the act of designing a product or providing a solution to a problem in an elaborate or complicated manner where a simpler solution can be demonstrated to exist with the same efficiency and effectiveness as that of the original design. Blizzard's default stance on the game appears to be using the hand of God that they, as developers, possess in order to try and hammer out the imbalances in the game. Realistically, the simple solution would be to slow down subsequent development and to observe the player base reaching a level set point and making small tweaks and quality of life adjustments from there. But Smash! They want to preserve high quality experience for everybody. Surely they know what they're doing. Let's talk about the GOATS meta. GOATS was a team that swept their 2018 season with a lineup of D.Va, Reinhardt, Zarya, Brigitte, Zenyatta, and Lucio. The former three are tanks, the latter three are healers or support. What GOATS did was turn the game's understood meta of 2-2-2 on its head by absconding from DPS heroes entirely and rewarding a cluster bomb strategy. I'll bite my tongue in saying that previous patches, including the addition of Brigitte, probably would have made this far less viable. That said, Overwatch was dominated by tanky strats throwing DPS to the side. It became one of the only viable ways to win. Blizzard struggled for months to counter this by buffing DPS, nerfing tanks, playing with support until eventually, they fixed it! Wait, no. That's not right. They made it officially unplayable with role locks! That's right, if you wanted to play GOATS, then you weren't going to play it in competitive, or in quick play for that matter. That was the solution. Instead of leaning into the curve and allowing the players to find homeostasis in their game, Blizzard followed their patching spree by basically giving up and saying, well, you just can't do that thing anymore. Now, I'm a tank. I like to hit hard and get hit. I like to push the payload, hold the line, and save the support. Role lock is fine for me. So few people want to play tank that I can't play around without getting a free loot box or in-game credits. Most people playing Overwatch don't want to play Overwatch though. They want to play Call of Duty, which is why the damage role lock can take 5, 10, 15 minutes for you to find a match. Problem solved! This brings me back to the risk and reward aspect. GOATS took a big risk in trying their strat, and it worked. It changed the entire landscape of the game. Players hadn't encountered it yet, but I would argue that Blizzard changed so much, so frequently leading up to it, and after it, that the players never had a chance to do so. GOATS found an easily exploitable strat that could be played out effectively. They took a risk in breaking the meta, and they were rewarded for it. In exchange, the devs took it upon themselves to fix the imbalance, and after months of failing to do so, made a change that nobody else possibly could. They changed the game. Those changes bring me to my last major bone of contention. Bone. Skill. Now, I mentioned that Reinhardt is my man. This is burly Adonis wrapped in svelte German steel who swings a rocket hammer when he's not protecting the entire team when his last 10 HP is the hero I've gravitated towards since I started playing, and I have the stats and hours to back it up. I learned everything I could about the German juggernaut. Shield flicking, fire strike, travel time, momentum control during my charge, swinging the mouse while swinging the hammer for maximum AoE. You name it, I was up on it. I loved it. I still do. After a long time, I tolerated these patches. Earth Shatter change? Okay. Reduce my shield? Alright. Increase my knockback resistance. About time. Decrease my knockback resistance. Okay, feels gratuitous. Shorten stun after hitting with my still kinda wonky ult. Alright, guys. What's more was that I was dealing with the patches to my own main while relearning strategies against other heroes. For example, adjusting to an increase in my knockback my boy receives is kind of upsetting when Lucio pops in to grease his toilet bowl. The problem I had is that these changes became pervasive. It was no longer about how well I played the game, it's about how quickly I learned the changes. Then, hoping that those changes stick around long enough in order to capitalize. Then, repeating the process when they don't. There's a reason so many players spend so much time in the Overwatch public testing region. I eventually grew to learn that my experience in Overwatch was never meant to be about what I was looking for in the game. It was meant to be what Blizzard wanted me to have. Blizzard made a great game, and they put gobs of work into it. Never let it be said that there is anything but love and dedication from the dev team on Overwatch, because I sincerely believe that to be the case. That said, I need to have enough of my own experience to justify spending more time there. That's why I've gravitated toward other games that give me the framework of their game with the ability to make my own experience in it. Sure, the workshop is a neat novelty and the team aspires to keep the game relevant and great, but at a certain point you need to let your players decide what the game is going to be. No matter how much I loved Overwatch, Blizzard showed me that it was never going to be anything more than what they wanted me to have. Now, there are other things that get even deeper into why I fell out of love with Overwatch, and maybe if this video gets some love, I'll make a part 2. But I do encourage you to play it. It's a fun game, it's a great game with friends, and it's an exceptional game with friends who match your skill level and priorities in the experience. Overwatch dominated my gaming landscape for years, and it was the most streamed game on my channel for a long time. But now I can tolerate a few nights every couple of months before saying, my cup runneth over. Play the game. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just why I fell out of love with Overwatch. That said, this is my first real foray into YouTube, so I hope you've enjoyed the content. Leave a comment telling me what you think of my opinions here, and by all means, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed and like to see more. Otherwise, you can catch me on Twitch a few nights a week. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you later.